It's a J, we break through. 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 I know it's lonely at the top, but that's not by speculation. But the position that I got, I climb too high to fall, way too hard to drop. Stop clocks on the speed bag. Every out under pressure, no jet lag. This is greater than trophies and saluted flags. Titles of fame, the cost is paid. Yay, I carried the cross I made. Deal with the dealer. Baby, the hand was played. New level, next stage. Learn to lead as a legend. Now tell me what's my next stage. Yay. I said the champ is here, switch gears. We keeping haters in the rear. At the blood, sweat, and tears, and my goal so near. I see my record is so clear. It's a J, we break through. 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 It's a J, we break through.
All right, and we're live. Look at that. Good times. Whoa. I apparently sized your video incredibly horribly. All I can see is like your giant forehead. I mean, look who's talking. You're hosed in that point, right? I need to confirm. Is my forehead large? Do I have a huge dome? Yeah. I've fought the good fight for a while, and the hairline really wasn't and hasn't been receding until now. Like I'm just starting to get like I've always had a huge forehead with a giant scar or scars, I should say, in the middle now. It says they say that you're on mute, so that shouldn't be the case. There we go. How about now? There we go.
Mic's coming in. Was I muted?
Yeah, I had you muted because I'm an idiot.
The whole beginning of the show has been ruined because you're an idiot.
Yeah, we didn't get your great hairline story about your uncle. You want to tell it again?
Yeah, so I had an uncle that when I was like 7, he had hair. And then, from 7 to 14, some guys just lose it. And when I was like 14, we were at family get together and it was gone. And, it's like one of those, when it happens, you don't really say anything.
Just let it go.
Yeah, I mean, you just let it. Nobody wants to get made fun of, right? It's not their fault. But my uncle used to just address it by going, my forehead, it keeps growing. It doesn't stop. And then it just took over my hair. That was always a funny joke for saying I went bald.
Yeah, I don't know about you. Like, it doesn't really run in my family other than a little bit. Like, my dad has it, but nobody else really. So it's like the one thing that I have in life is that I can count on having hair for a long time. And even if I don't, I have a big round melon that's just, it works well with a shaved head.
I see. I have a problem. I have big ears, and then I also kind of have a smaller-ish face. So I feel like if
your ratio is skewed.
Yeah. So if it goes, I'm gonna look like Adam Silver.
It happens.
Look, no offense to Adam Silver. He's a great guy, good commish. He probably wishes he had hair. Is my guess.
I know, he's got a round dome, so he can pull it off. It's just long. The ratio.
So skinny.
Yeah.
He's so skinny, so it's like a Skeletor type. I'm probably gonna be that if I lose my hair, but I've always maintained if I have my hair till I'm at least 40.
That's a win.
It's a win. And then if it goes at 45 or 50, like I'm sure
whatever.
it will.
You had 40 good years.
Dude, I won't give an S if I'm 50 years old and bald. Like,
no. Like the second this like starts to like creep,
yeah,
and like it's getting like bicked. It's like it's everybody's saying, yeah, no, Sprague is muted. Now it's good. Yeah, no, it's because I'm an idiot. So That's
unusual. Usually it's my fault.
Yeah, Yeah. But this time, entirely on me. I have rebuilt everything from scratch. Shout out Twitch for getting a giant data breach and me like scrambling to change everything. And
Oh, they had a data breach?
oh yeah, that's what
Damn.
happened. So
Oh.
I because everything is like the setup is through Twitch, even though it's Streamlabs OBS and everything that I use to do this. Like all of
Yeah.
the login is all linked in through that, and I'm like, okay, we're starting from scratch. Going to go ahead and pull the plug on everything and make sure it's all good. Johnny, Andre, Corey, Brady, thank you guys for pouring in here. First time I noticed the hairline creeping up, I went full stone cold. Yeah, I mean, it's like if you can do it, do it. I have people in my family who will remain nameless have not succumbed to that quite yet when they really should.
Do you know who Mike Tannenbaum is?
Yeah.
Do you know who that is? So he's, for those who don't, he's a former NFL front office guy.
Mhm.
He's on ESPN all the time now. I saw him today when I was doing the radio show, and I look up on my TV, and his hair is like worse than Stephen A's. It's like starting right where my headset is. You see
Yeah.
this? That's basically his hair.
He's
And I
using the
just-
headset to like hold his hair.
Well, he wasn't using a headset. It was just a TV shot. And I thought, dude, I'm
Let
already
go.
basically seeing what you look like bald. Just shave that off and keep it low.
You never gonna
that's
go
the thing.
full Urlacher?
I don't think I can pull Urlacher off. I think I'm gonna have to be like,
Nope,
you
no
know,
plugs.
no plug. I mean, if I could afford it, I. For
I think
sure would.
he got the plug. Remember, he was bald. He was bald coming out of New Mexico State.
Yeah, he was bald. Like,
It's
my
weird to
coworker-
see him with hair.
Yeah, my coworker played against him in college, and he was like, yeah, he was bald in college. So to see him with hair now, it's kind of bizarre. Drew Brees did this too. He went and got hair.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about it. Like everybody's like, oh, I could never do that. You know, it comes with all of the negative, and then some guys are just like, screw it, I'm just gonna do it. Like Urlacher, like I think he had a billboard like for whatever like Bosley or whatever it was that he did. Like he became like the spokesperson for him. So he got his hair right, and then. Yeah, Joey says Stephen A's is getting bad. No, it's not getting. It's been
bad.
that way. But listen, I mean, he makes like 8 mil, 10 mil a year right now as the hardest working guy in sports. So, man can do what he wants. Speaking of doing what you want, welcome in. You could have gone anywhere else, but you came here. Welcome into the Jacked Ramsays live show. I am Danny Marang, joined as always by Brandon Sprague. We obviously have some preseason action to discuss, which. Hey, all right. We're a little bit early today, just because again we blame Sprague. That's what we do here. You'll kind of see the non-game day shows. We'll try to keep them right around 5 o'clock ish, give or take, just to kind of make things work. You'll also see the pregame shows slot in at that time, unless we get those weird East Coast games, in which case we'll go a little bit further back. We'll try to go like 3:30, something like that. But yeah, Sprague, we have actual basketball to talk about, man.
We do. I also want to note, so we posted the post-game show from the first preseason game. You and I talked off the air about this, but I feel like it's fair to share it. We probably won't be posting the pre.
Yeah.
Just because it's going to be so dated.
It's going to be dated
like,
real quick. So you guys will
Yeah.
get the post-game wrap-up, which will be anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes a night. And it'll be rapid reaction. It'll be like within a few minutes after the horn. Like if something crazy happens, we have to adjust some things. I got to get some graphics, that kind of stuff. But otherwise, it's going to be pretty darn quick right after the game. Those will hit your feed. They'll be ready for you to go in the next morning if you can't stay up late or you want to know what happened or the big storylines. It'll be basically your condensed like game notes version of like, hey, here's what we saw, here's what we thought. And we'll hit some box score stuff, but it's not going to be, oh, they scored this many points. And I don't even think we mentioned the final score in the post game the other night.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, it wasn't
does-
important.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like it does not matter. Preseason scores do not matter. So, but again, thank you all for coming and joining. If you haven't already, please subscribe here on YouTube, youtube.com/Danny Marang. If you have not already subscribed to the podcast, you can click on the link tree or just go search Jacked Ramsays and then subscribe there wherever you get your podcasts. Or iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Megaphone, Stitcher. There's so many stinking platforms out there. We're on all of them. So cool, right? Like, it's been amazing. We had great support on the first post-game show. We've had great support here doing these live shows. And, again, thank you all so very much. And if you like us, please share us with somebody you know. Help us grow. We're just short of 1,500 on the YouTube channel. The podcast continues to grow and grow and grow. And really, to be honest, kick ass on numbers. So
Yeah,
thank you guys
great.
for that. That's the business portion of it. I think the immediate thing to discuss here, at least for me, is we kind of already hit on some other stuff basketball-wise. We'll kind of go back a little bit and talk about it. But news from practice today, Cody Zeller has a broken nose and it requires surgery, and he's going to have it on Friday. The supposed curse of the Blazers big men continues.
Mm-hmm. There must be some water that the centers drink every day at the practice facility that says you're instantly going to be attracted to the ball in this region.
Yeah.
Look, it sucks. You feel bad for Cody because he's got to have surgery because it got so crushed. But the good news is they make masks for this stuff. We've seen time and time again players are still able to play through this.
Cubs still playing with his from last year.
Right. Yeah. You still get people that it's like nagging. It takes a while to heal right. So it sucks. It does. It's you hope that it stops happening now that he's going to go through surgery, but he's still able to play. So that the good news is it was an injury that's not going to actually impact the regular season. That's the good news.
For the most part, he's probably going to have some. The good thing is he's not like a high usage offensive guy.
Right.
It's a matter of like, struggling through the awkwardness of it, because everybody who's ever worn one has said the same thing. Like, this thing is stupid. It's kind of hard to breathe. And with him having nose surgery, you would imagine it's probably going to be a little bit of a hindrance for him, like learning how to, like, I don't know about anybody else. I'm a horrible mouth breather, so I'm a kind of person. I can't breathe through my nose for crap, dude. Like, anytime, even when I was running all the time, when I was in the Air Force, we ran miles, and I had a former cross-country star from Kansas, University of Kansas. And he's like, how do you run with your mouth open? I'm like, how do you not? Like, I don't. He's like, you look like a fly trap out there. I had a great lieutenant.
Two best mask players of all time. Would you say Rip Hamilton and LeBron, or is there somebody I'm forgetting?
Yeah, black mask LeBron.
Like,
right?
where they wore the mask and seemingly there was no difference with how
I think
they
Rip
played.
got better.
Rip did get better.
I think
That's
Rip
why
got better with the
he
mask.
wore it the rest of his career because how good he was.
He just
with
got
it.
used to it.
It was his arm. It was his AI arm sleeve.
Yeah,
You don't need that anymore.
just let it go, man. But it became
Right.
like part of him. Yeah, I think that's probably the list. It's kind of weird, but somebody had a question in here. I think it was Joey. Yeah. So what do you think about Rocco or Nance getting backup center time if Zeller can't go? Real quick, I think Zeller should be good to go probably by the regular season. I would imagine that they could have kind of figured it out. But let's be honest, it's a nose surgery. He's a center, and apparently Blazer bigs are just a magnet for getting hit in the face. Even with the mask on, it still hurts.
Oh, for sure.
It still doesn't feel good. So I would imagine he's going to catch a elbow or an arm or a ball or something to stray to the face, and we'll see some different things in that regard. So maybe this forces their hand a little bit. Maybe Cody doesn't go on was it Monday? So maybe he doesn't go on Monday because he's fresh out of surgery on Friday. So so your first backup big off the bench is still going to be Nance, but he's not coming in at the 4. He's coming in at the 5. Maybe Nas slides up. Maybe Snell's ready to go. He didn't practice today, but I heard that he's getting close.
He's optimistic that he's going to be out there soon.
So perhaps you get a Snell, Nassir Little, or maybe because of this, the Blazers take extended looks at Marquise Chris.
Yeah, no, they really might be considering it now. I mean, look, I think he'll play, but we don't know how he's going to feel. And you said it, like, what if he takes one hit to the nose, like with a mask or not? That's going to effing hurt.
It's not going to feel great, Bob.
No, not at all. But I mean, to that question though, I mean, look, Rocco's played the 5 before, but we have Larry Nance, so
and they've got Chris, and if they want to, they can throw 2-Pat out there. Patrick Patterson can go out there.
He's got 6 fouls, and he's old. Use him.
Yeah, and the Blazers know who he is. Like Chauncey had him with the Clippers as an assistant. Like nobody needs to see a single minute from Patrick Patterson to know what he is as a player. If they end up going with him, it's because they want his locker room presence. They want like his vibes. Like they don't care really about his basketball acumen right at this point in time.
So let me ask you this. It's been a couple days since their game. What have been your thoughts of just the general reaction from that preseason game? A game that I largely tell people like does not matter. It's going to be irrelevant. Rotations will not be the same. But like they lost, their defense didn't look good. Like people, you know how people react to this. What has been your reaction to the reaction for a couple days now?
What's really funny is I've been painted as for a long time as the negative guy, right? He doesn't. I had somebody outwardly say the other day that I hate this team and I should go cheer for the Lakers. Which, sure, okay. It's one of those things where you just kind of like you find yourself looking at how in the world have you reached that sentiment? It doesn't make any sense to me. But with all of that as the framing, I went over to Blazers Edge just to kind of see, in the comment section how people were feeling. And you could tell that there was a visceral fear setting in already. And a lot of that has to do, I think, with so many people saying 55 wins, 58 wins, 60 wins. Like, people have just been like...
people really think this team can win 60 games?
People think this... 50 is a stretch, let's be honest. And that's like...
Do you know how hard it is to win 60?
You know how hard it is to win 50?
I do.
You know how many times
60?
They've won 51 plus in the franchise history? I think it's 14 times.
Yeah.
And this is a franchise that has been historically very good. Like if
yeah.
So 60, like that's the thing. I said this a couple weeks ago. I can't remember where I came up with it, but the general idea is that the Golden State Warriors completely foobarred any rational thought of like what 60 and 70 wins is. Like because they were so good, winning so handedly, that became like, oh, that's what really a great team is. And it's like, no, you're talking about the greatest regular season team of all time. That can't be the bar that you're using to pull from. Like that can't be what you're saying is like, oh yeah, no, teams can win. No. Winning 45 games is a good season. Winning 50 is a great season. 54, 55 plus, you're a title contender. 60's insane, dude.
Look, that just caught me off guard to hear that there was even one person to say 60.
Yeah. No, I've seen multiple people 58 plus. And it's just... I think,
and those, it's easy to react to that, but like there is no chance that is more than 2% of the fan base that really truly believes that in their heart of hearts. And in fact, I would guess
I want to do a poll on it. How many people think I ran one earlier, I think it was before the Nance trade, how many people thought that they were going to win more than 50, and it was like 38%, and there was like 1,000 people in that vote.
Yeah. Still not the majority.
No, but that's crazy, dude.
Like, I just read Hollinger. I'm reading everybody's pieces now, coming on different. Like, Hollinger broke a lot of stuff down and
said sixth.
He said sixth again, and he says 45 wins, which I think would actually hit their over for the win total.
43 and a half, 44 and a half.
Depending on where you look.
Yeah, what's weird is there's not a consensus, which I thought was a little bit strange.
Every book's got a little different number, but I thought that was realistic. I think they're going to get fourth just because I think they value the regular season. But
a little bit more than other teams, yeah.
That could be a difference, Danny, of Hollinger says 45, I say 47. Like it's that slim a margin in the West, so it's not like it's that big of a gap. When you get to like 52 plus,
you're in title contention. Like legitimately, that's where you start. Yeah. Well, to be honest, as much as people like to clown on them, they are right there. They are a team where this is where I think I break apart the 2018-19 Western Conference Finals run and like where the Jazz are right now. Mm-hmm. If you told me that the Utah Jazz were in the Western Conference Finals when the season was over, it would not surprise me. Would it surprise you?
No, it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.
No, it wouldn't surprise
me. The 2018-19 Blazers team winning the Western Conference Finals, would that surprise you? Yes.
That shocked me.
Yes.
And I thought they were going to lose the first round match.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is you look at where teams are and then the thoughts of where they end up.
Right.
More often than not, while the Blazers have exceeded like gambling expectation lines, national lines, it's not like they've like shattered those records. You can go back to the 15-16 season when after LaMarcus left and nobody knew what the hell this team was. Yeah. I made a significant amount of money on that bet because 26.5 was a low number.
Right.
But again, I think this all comes back to two things. One, the messaging from the team of Terry was every single problem. and that the roster is significantly better and it's the deepest team. If both of those things are in place where you have a new coach and Terry was the problem and the roster is better, expectations are up here. And then you go out there and a lot of the things that you look at are, well, the defense doesn't look that much different other than they're more aggressively blowing coverages. Like that's a change. And they need time with that. That's fine. And the offense, while it looked a little bit different, it's still mainly the same thing. They had 26 turnovers, Brandon.
Yeah.
This is a team that took better care of the ball than basically any team over the last 5 years. So you're seeing some stark changes, and I think very sharp contrasts in what expectations were versus what actually happened.
Yeah. And I think to have, I guess I would say to place those expectations in game one of the preseason, like everybody's entitled to feel how they feel, but like personally, I wouldn't be placing that on this team. I expected them to have a lot of bad moments. I mean, it's a new system. It's a new staff. It's a new roster to a certain extent. Like it's almost like when I golf pretty frequently. I'm not a great golfer, but then I took golf lessons and I had to break apart my swing and figure out how to swing everything. I was awful.
Yeah.
Awful the first like 5 rounds, and I'm still not very good, but now I'm starting to see and feel a difference with a new swing. I think it's
Well, we lost you.
There
we go.
I think it's very similar to that. I think you're just breaking things down and you
got to build back up.
Yeah, you're going to go through some lumps, and I think they're going to take those in the regular season too. But I don't know. I guess it's just interesting to see how people approach expectations towards teams like this when they're in entirely new situations.
I think I've got the lower third going on this. This is kind of where it was going to get to. Coach Billups, after one game, what was your general thought of, like, not just the rotations or anything like that, because that's stuff they're going to feel out, but post-game, press conferences, just general feel, now that we're a couple days removed, did it feel any different?
I think the post-game, pre-game practice stuff is going to be different than Terry. I think he's going to be a little more forthright in a lot of aspects.
And more open in the sense of, like, they had Chauncey mic'd up in camp. Terry would have never done that. That's just not who he is.
Right.
So I think
that's a player thing, though. Like, he did that in the NBA.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, there's a little bit different understanding in that regard. So, like, as far as, like, that openness and, like, maybe how much more he'll let you in, I think changes.
I think what I took away, and this isn't like a grand conclusion by any stretch, right? But your question is, Chauncey, like, I don't have a problem with the way he speaks to the media. Like, Quick has been honest and said, it's like a breath of fresh air. And I get that. You're covering Terry. You got a different person. I totally understand that. The game stuff, and I've been joking about this on my radio show. Did we get Nate McMillan or did we get Jason Kidd? And I'm legitimately wondering, how many games is he going to get out coached? How many moments is he not going to be thinking chess from the coaching perspective and more the player perspective, which could be good, but sometimes that can bite you too. And I think that's something to monitor is, does he truly strike you as he knows what to do and what to call in every moment? And I know that's why Roy and Scott are on the bench with him, but I think that's a pretty pivotal part of this whole thing, right? He could be great at answering questions and being honest. You got to know what to do in the right situation. And some of those situations, it's going to be give Dame the damn ball. But other times, there's going to be bad matchups. There's going to be rotation adjustments you're going to have to make. And this league is full of guys that have been around. They've been around the block a little bit. Like, I wouldn't pick him to outcoach Steve Kerr. Yeah. So, to me, it's going to be a patience thing and also kind of seeing and feeling how we feel about this. If they're 20 games in, Danny, and they're 13-7, I'm going to play this fun game every day, probably. Nate McMillan or Jason Kidd. How are we feeling about that right now? There could be an in-between of that.
And I think that's ultimately what we'll get through with the first year.
Right.
And that's where, and again, we'll constantly kind of evaluate and reevaluate where Chauncey is, where they want him to be, where we expect him, all that kind of stuff. But the thing about it for me is that how much is he learning? Is he making the same mistakes?
Yes.
I think that's the more important thing when we're looking at this is how well does he get, like, he's going to get kicked on an adjustment. Either he over-adjusts or he under-adjusts in a situation, and it's going to bite him. Does he continue to make the same mistakes? And I think that's going to be one of the things that's going to kind of pop up. Harrison Winkler came in and says, is Sprague rocking the chain? Look at you.
Been rocking the gold chain since I went to Hawaii, baby. By the way, full disclosure for anybody seeing this and like, oh, I'm going to rob that skinny mofo. This is legitimately a $15 chain. This is not real gold.
Oh, is that a turn your neck green kind of chain?
No, it's like that in between. It's a material that has, I don't know. My wife said it's not the neck green gold chain. It's legitimate to not turn my neck green and to make people think it's real gold.
Okay,
That's what it is.
so just good enough to trick you into getting robbed and then realizing it's a bad idea.
If you wanted it and you saw me on the street and you had
Did
a
you take it
knife,
off?
I would gladly hand. I'd be like,
Here you go,
dude,
just dangle it at him.
Go pawn it. Good luck. I hope you get $4.
We're getting some arguments in the conversation or in the comments right now about young
arguments?
guys. Well, just about young guys in general, I think.
Young players or coaches?
Young players, but I think
Okay.
that also pertains to young coaches as well, as far as like when we're talking about development. And I think that's a good transition for us to go from talking about Chauncey Billups into Nasir Little. The way I've caveated this was Nasir Little, take a breath. Went 1 for 9, had 5 turnovers, box score stuff. That's suboptimal, right?
Well,
But
Chauncey alluded to it. He just didn't call him out by name. He said, guys, we're pressing and trying too hard.
and even did a little bit further the next time they talked. He was like, hey, he'll be fine. And I think that's Don's just got his option. He's got a coach he's got a clean slate. It doesn't matter if it's Chauncey. It could have been a dude off the street. It's just when you've got a new boss, what do you want to do? You want to impress.
Right.
And so he realized, I can really do something here. And you could tell, you and I were talking during the game. It was just like, he needs to slow the hell down. You could tell it was like a puppy you're getting ready to feed, man. He was just like, just waiting for the food to hit the bowl kind of a deal. It was like, it's okay, man. It's not going anywhere. And that's the thing is, I think, and this is, I think, what's going to be really interesting with Chauncey, and tell me if you're on the same plane here. Chauncey's going to give him that chance. He's going to give him that leash here because he's publicly kind of backed him and endorsed him. So he's got to give him a chance to either publicly succeed or publicly fail. Does that seem fair?
If Snell's ready to play, I don't know how long that's going to last, though.
What does that look like for you?
Ideally, like 10 to 12 games. Like if you're still doing what you did in the preseason game and you do it the rest of the preseason, and then you're going to carry that over, I don't know why we would continue to give him minutes. Like, he was erratic. He wasn't good. He wasn't fitting in with what they were doing. Like, I didn't like any of the things Nas showed us. But again, it's one game. He could be pressing. He can easily turn this around, but I can't fathom that that's going to be very long in the regular season.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Looking ahead to game 2, 3, and 4 in the preseason, I would be very shocked if Nasir looked as rattled as he did in game 1. I think that's the first time, and Dame alluded to it. He said, hey, you've got all these expectations. You're getting your first real shot. You want to do everything you can possibly do all at once. There was one possession where he caught on the left wing, and he sized him up, jab, 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 went into his dribble package, and then drove, and then was like, oh, crap, what do I do now? And it was just like, you could see it was just like, Nas, you're making this really hard, dude. You just...
Right.
Play ball, because we've seen what he does when he plays ball. A 30-point outburst against Milwaukee. He's come in and had these spurts where 12 points in a game here, 14 in a game there. It's like, just take it. And I saw a lot of people saying, well, he was hyped all camp, da-da-da-da. It was like, yeah, both things can be true. He could have gone out there and pressed and been completely sideways in a game because he's a 21-year-old kid. And let's not get it twisted. 21's still a kid.
Well, I mean, what rookie quarterback had the greatest preseason? Zach Wilson. He's been awful this year. So, like,
Peyton Manning was a dumpster fire.
He set the record for interceptions. You people just got to understand that, like, you can be hyped and it can be legitimate hype, and then you can go out there and you can have
lay an egg.
bad moments.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that the easy transition here, and we talked about it after game 1, and that's Anfernee Simons. You're talking about a guy who was hyped 2 years ago. Dame has been pretty steady with his praise of Ant. And people I've talked to around the organization have all been very steady with their praise with Ant as far as like the things that he can do. And one of the biggest questions, and I think most people were, I think pessimistic would be a very safe way to phrase this, is Ant's ability to run the second unit in any capacity, let alone like a little bit or taking the full reins of the second unit. He looked not just okay, he looked very good. He looked under control and dictated. He didn't do anything that blew people away, but I think what he showed was, listen, I can do this. Like, we're good here. If I told you were going to get 12-5 out of Anfernee Simons this season, what would you say to that?
I mean, I think you would take that. I should also note, like, I really liked what I saw from him too. He's got to do that every single preseason game. You can't be having like 1 out of 4 games you're doing that and then you're going back to like old tendencies. That's kind of what the season is for him, right? Like when we interviewed him, we talked to him. He alluded to that himself. He's like, I gotta be consistent and give this team what they need off the bench. He knows what his role is.
Yeah.
So the next
it's the consistency and picking his spots, which I think this is great for the preseason.
And look, averages are averages for a reason. He's going to have a bad game.
Those
are going to be in there. But it's going to be largely when he comes off that bench, you're not going, oh my God, I don't know what we're going to do here. You're kind of like, all right, I can trust what he is going to provide to this second unit.
Yeah, and I think that's a boom for this team. Like because it was a real question. More than anything, more than any box scores, more than anything else that comes along with it. The thing that I really appreciated, that I really liked when I was watching, was that Ant did not turn his back to defenders. So when he brought the ball up, it was with confidence. He had a little kind of a point guard bounce to his step. You know what I'm talking about. You get a little bit of that hop step. You want to blow into the hands. You're just kind of feeling the vibes. And Avery Bradley picked him up because the scouting report says press him. 100%. Yeah. Every opponent's scouting report on Anfernee Simons says press him. His handle's loose. And Ant didn't turn his back. He squared up. There was the possession where he needs this is the growth you're talking about on the other stuff. Yeah. He had Iguodala, who Iggy is not the player he used to be. He is not the athlete he used to be. But I guarantee you when Ant is sizing him up, he's thinking about Andre Iguodala, the likely, probable Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer. Everybody's a Hall of Famer, plays in basketball.
But that being said, Ant attacked him aggressively. Crossed him up, hit him with that in and out, and twisted Iggy into knots. Got to the rim, smoked the layup. But more than smoking the layup, the aggression and the confidence in attacking a guy like Iguodala, who, even though he's old, even though he's lost more than a step, he's got the IQ and the ability to cut off angles and to swipe the ball away. I mean, that's just what he has made a living doing. And he tied him in knots. And I think that's a building block to go off of. I mean,
he smoked the layup, yeah, but I think the bigger thing there is that he went and got a layup. You know what I mean?
Got to the rim.
Got himself that look. Yeah, that's going to be a vital thing for him this year.
Anything from Ant's game other than like kind of what we've hit on that either you have more questions about or you want to see more of going forward, or are you just kind of like, hey, this was good, we want to see more of this?
It's I liked what I saw. I don't have any more expectations than what he did. Maybe statistically, I know that can somewhat be misleading in box scores when you evaluate everything, but seeing the 12, hell, maybe 14 points, like, and feeling that impact versus, he finished with 14, they were down by 15, he played garbage minutes.
Yeah.
Feeling the
impact points.
Impact points is what I would like to see. Basically, take what you did and keep doing that. Make me feel comfortable, because here's the underrated part of that. If he can get to that level and he's giving you this consistently, people wanted to poke fun at their offseason. I'm kind of one of them, right? I don't think they had a great offseason. Their marginal moves is what they did, and they kept the one guy that they kind of traded everything for. They had to sign Norm Powell. When Ant gives you that production, it's basically like another free agent acquisition. It's a guy that didn't give you nearly close to that. And then the next year, the production was like, whoop, it went way up. So it almost feels like you got another player in the offseason. That goes the same for Nas, too. If Nas can find it, you're going to feel almost like, oh, we got 2 new players on this team because they weren't last year what they are this year.
And the thing about that is, and I think this is where I probably break off from a lot of people, while those 2 guys hitting becomes a very, very good thing for this team, I don't think unless one or both hit, and I mean hit, like Ant is legitimately in a 6th man of the year. You're looking at him as a potential starter going into next season. Like basically what we saw from CJ when he broke out and it got his most improved, like that kind of growth, none of that is going to be enough to elevate them to actual contender status because they share the floor with Dame and CJ. Like they can't get the minutes to get out there and be as impactful.
I'd have to go through, you'd be better at this than me, admittedly. I'd have to go through and look at rosters to really kind of remind myself, a refresher. Do you really believe he can win MIP or 6th man? Because the 6th man thing, I feel like is just going to go to Jordan Clarkson every GD year as long as he's on the Utah Jazz.
I genuinely believe most improved he could win.
Okay.
Because it always goes to
see it.
Well, it always goes to an offensive guy who like increases their points. And Ant was, I think, at 7 last year. If let's say he goes from 7 to, let's say it goes crazy. Let's say he gets like 16. And
16 would be amazing.
For me, I think 12 to 14 is a very comfortable place to go.
I'm really hoping for 14, yeah.
Cracking 15 is that next step. And then cracking 20, like when you're talking about like categorizing scores in the league, your first is like, let's get above 7. And then let's get above 12 to 14. And then get above 15. Like the perfect example of this is like Wes Matthews. He was at that 15 level, and then he got that growth. He added the post game. He added the ability to take guys out off the closeouts, and like all of a sudden you're like 17. You're like, oh, okay. Like Norman Powell, same kind of thing. He was a dunker, added the 3-point to his game, the ability to attack off the bounce, got to 17, 18. That next plateau to 20, that's I think the hardest threshold in the NBA to cross when you're talking about scoring. But I think Ant has the ability to get to that 16, 18 if given opportunity. Now, if he got to 16 points and 4 assists, yes, I think he could get MIP. I genuinely believe that he will have the opportunity to live up to that if they're going to stick to what Billups has publicly stated, which is I want to play Dame less. I want to take the burden. You can't take the burden off Dame and CJ without giving it to somebody else at that guard position, and he is the most likely candidate.
I remember talking with somebody and a few years ago at the Moda before the COVID stuff. And it was this, I mean, this kind of speaks to how great LeBron's been, but it was the conversation about LeBron playing less minutes, and it was Ty Lue was coaching the Cavs, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a minute ago. And the narrative was like, LeBron's going to play less. He's getting older. He's got a lot of miles, yada, yada, yada. And somebody said to me, and they go, I hate that narrative. And I go, why? Don't you think he should play less? And I go, well, should he? Probably. Is he going to? No. And I go, you don't buy it? And he goes, no. LeBron plays the minutes LeBron wants to play. So I get what Chauncey is saying, but is Dame really going to go, yeah, I only want to play 32 tonight? It's like, no, those guys love to ball. That's their livelihood. So I
and they're rhythm guys.
Too.
Dame and CJ are two of the more staunch rhythm guys. Like they work themselves into a game, and that comes over those minutes. There's only so many Jordan Clarksons in the league who can just come in and be like, just can be hot. Like
play 26, 7, 8 minutes and then just drop 30 points. Like that doesn't happen very often. So that, that's another thing Chauncey says. Let's see if that really happens.
And that's the thing is, if you're gonna say it, if I'm gonna go, okay, I'm gonna take you at your word. You're gonna say that, then that burden, that responsibility falls on you to give Anfernee Simons, to give Norman Powell, to empower them more in that regard. And speaking of Norman Powell, he did not practice today. He went into preseason game 1 with a bit of a hip stinger. He left, was it in the third quarter? No, second or third quarter?
Second.
I thought
it was second. Second? Was it?
So it's all blending together now because Zeller got hurt in the third. I don't know. But the I don't want to say injury bug. Are you worried at all with?
No.
Okay.
No, I look, I get it. I do. I know you sick son of a bitch. You got something in your brain that's going to go, let me rant about this for 5 minutes. Before you do that, let me just say, 1, don't put that juju on me, Ricky Bobby. And 2, Zeller suffered a broken nose. It's bad luck. He'll be okay.
There's only so much bad luck that goes around, dude.
I know, but Chauncey says Norm's okay. I'm not concerned that he's not practicing. I won't care if he plays another preseason game.
Yeah.
Some of these guys are so experienced, it just doesn't matter.
No.
It's all about getting healthy and being ready for game 1. Now, go ahead, wax poetic about how we should be scared that there's a voodoo doll out there somewhere and somebody's poking needles into it.
Yeah, I want to find that SOB because they've been doing it for a long time.
I think they're 87 years old, and they've been having a lot of fun since the 70s with it.
Yeah, they're just some dude that just got really pissed off at the Trailblazers down in Louisiana and was like, nope, some Bayou bumpkin and made up.
I heard it was a dude from Baton Rouge.
There you go.
And Bill stole his weed, and ever since then, he went back home, and he's like, screw that team forever.
That tracks. Like,
you know?
As stupid and as insane as that is, nothing else makes more sense. Like, legitimately, it's just nothing else makes more sense. Like, oh, yeah, no, it's just unfortunate series of luck to just literally every person that ever plays for this franchise.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried, per se. I mean, I am interested to see how Chauncey handles the public perception of injuries, because the Neil Terry regime, they treated it like the Patriots and Bill Belichick.
You didn't hear anything until Woj or Shams tweeted it.
We heard about Mo Harkless having off-season knee surgery at Media Day. The Blazers' own media people went, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
So
it was a Zion situation. It was like, oh, and Zion broke his foot and had surgery. Like, anybody else have that?
Excuse me? Pardon me?
Didn't have
what?
that on my bingo card.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like I have already seen Chauncey in the post-game press conference before practice today, following game 1. Chauncey basically said, we're pretty sure Cody's nose is broken. It wasn't we'll wait for the X-rays to confirm, and then we'll just go. Well, you guys will get the injury report. Chauncey just kind of laid it out, like we're pretty sure it's broke, so we're hoping it's not. But and I think that it's a little thing, but as far as like covering the team, it is a little bit nicer, right?
Won't we have to wait and see before we totally conclude it?
I'm just saying, like right now, like.
Yeah.
They have not black boxed this already.
I don't think they. Okay, I totally agree with what you're saying about Terry and Neil. I don't feel like that injury would have been kept from us. I do feel like Terry would have shared that Cody broke his nose.
Probably. I'm probably being a little unfair there, but
I think, Danny, I think the time for this evaluation of what you're talking about is real. I think we got to wait for the regular season if there's a rotation player starter.
I will not wait, Sprague.
I'm just saying, I think that's when you gauge how honest Chauncey. By the way, are we going with Chauncey or Chauncey?
I'm going Chauncey.
You're going Chauncey.
I'm going Chauncey. It's just it's like I know I should be saying Chauncey, but the ingrained smartass in me just wants to stick with Chauncey for just every part of this.
There's a real Jace to that. You know
100% that is where that's coming from.
Jace, his name's Jason. You're just taking out 2 letters. Chauncey, it's like you're just leaving out the E and the Y.
You know what he calls Dame, right?
Oh, God. Damien?
D.
When does he call them D? I don't know if I've ever heard him call him D.
A couple times he's called him D in the press conference. There's the video of him hitting the game winner against OKC in the locker room. Uh-huh. If you find the video of that.
Yeah.
Great job, D. Great job. The first time I saw that, I was like, God, why? Why do you do this? Why do you do...
It's a 4-letter nickname already. It's like that Yes Man movie. It's like, can I call you Ka? It's like, my name's Carl. It's already pretty short. It's
Ka.
4 letters. I'm going to call you Ka. It's like, just call him Dave.
If he looks at me, he's like, hey, duh. Just blow my brains out right then and there. It's just
I might call you Da the rest of the season.
What's up, Da?
That's my guy. That's my guy, Da.
It's my guy, Da Ma. Da Ma. Man. All right. Let's fast forward. That's enough looking back. Well, I think this is a good way to preface this. Zach Lowe's kind of season preview or tier preview came out, and he has the Blazers in the play-in bracket.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which you said you had them 4th?
I think, yeah.
Or fourth is a potential possibility.
I think 4 is the best they could do.
Okay.
And I'm pretty close. I don't know when we're going to give our like concrete predictions or whatever, but I would say right now I lean that they're 4th. I just think they care about the regular season a lot. This is a year of FU, you know what I mean? Like, we can still do this. We're good. You're doubting us. There's a lot.
And you're going to want to set that with Dame, the background of the Dame noise in the offseason.
Right. I could see them getting to 4th, like in a great year, but
could you also see them in the play-in?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, that's not far-fetched to me. I don't know why we take that so personal on Twitter, where they're like, he disrespected it. It's like the West is really hard. And I don't know if those marginal moves are truly going to elevate them above some of these other teams that brought their guys back.
And that's the thing is, like, you can say I'm the negative guy and this, that, and all the other things that kind of go with it. Fine, whatever. You cannot say that about Zach Lowe.
No.
Zach, there are very few things that Zach is going to be negative about. And even then, he's going to cover it up. I tweeted about it earlier today when I tweeted out like what he had about Portland. He said, well, I guess that leaves the Clippers and the Blazers in the play-in. And his very next sentence is, I love the Blazers top 6. It's awesome. And it's like, so it's less a condemnation of the Blazers and more a, hey, the West is still really stupid. And are we past this point of the whole, have you got this East Coast BS bias? No, the Eastern Conference is back, baby, because they won the finals and the nets are loaded. But it's like you get past 3 teams and it's not that great anymore. It's still a lot of like okay teams, but not what the West has been for literally 20 years.
The West is deeper. The East is top is better than the West.
The top 2 for sure. You can probably argue 3. Like, is Philly better than any team, any of the top 3 in the West?
Well, what would you say the top 3 going in for you?
In the West or East?
The West.
Right now,
I assume the Lakers for you, right?
Lakers, Jazz, Suns. Okay. I don't think the 76ers are better than any of those 3 teams.
I think they could be. That's
after trading Simmons?
Well, eventually, yeah, if it gets to that point, sure. But I think Philly. Well, I just have so much respect for Joel that it's like I could see Joel winning. Like, it's a night-to-night thing. If you told me a series, I don't know if I would pick them against those teams. But if you told me like in the regular season they sweep the Jazz or they sweep the Suns, yeah, that's not far-fetched for me. And then I also think like I'm not just reacting to their crazy, unpredictable run. Let's give a little respect to Atlanta. They cause a lot of there's a lot of matchup
offensively,
problems with
they
that
are
team.
A nightmare cover,
and they're not
the
great
season,
defensively. Yeah,
and they're going to get healthy. That's the thing is they were missing a ton of their wings in the playoffs, and the Knicks don't have a point guard, and they still don't have a point guard, which is kind of their problem.
They did get a point guard, Kimba, King of New York, baby.
He ain't stopping Trey.
No, but he's getting dimes in Madison Square Garden.
Listen, he's going to live that up, and it'll be like Linsanity, except it'll be Kemba Babemba. I don't know. Like it's going to be like they'll elevate him to a level he shouldn't be, and then they'll get smoked in the playoffs.
Okay, I'm a big Kimba guy. I know he's not what people thought he would be.
He's good.
I love watching Kimba Walker play. I always have since UConn. Secondly, this is a side note. So I saw this, and I don't know if this was a glitch, but I follow a dude in the Bay Area, columnist, and he tweeted today, for Apple TV users out there, this is for the listeners. Apple TV, I guess, you can get NBA League Pass for $40.
Oh.
I'm about to look into it when we get done with the pod tonight, because I'm like, if that's real, and there was a screenshot and everything, and he responded and said, yeah, Apple TV, I guess, it's offering for $40. If that's the deal, yes, sir. Jumping all over that one.
Yeah. I guess that we can kind of lead now into at least
not to distract from the topics. I wanted to throw that out because it was just hit my mind talking about Kimba, and I'm like, I'll be watching perfect. Kimba this year.
I mean, that's what we do here. We derail and go another way. It's the great part about this. People are pissed, obviously, about the current lack of streaming options.
I got a timeout. I forgot my charger. Hold on. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'll keep this going, which is great about
Damn it, Bobby.
The current situation with streaming is not great. People are very frustrated. I've heard from more than a few people. The Blazers are working on other options. Root is working on other options. I don't have any like breaking news or anything in that regard, but I would expect they're trying to not repeat the same mistakes that have been made in the past, which is the limited distribution. Dish Network and AT&T falling off, or Root falling off that, it kind of is what it is. I think they'll try to find a way to get something with one of the big ones, either YouTube or Hulu.
Oh, I have information on that. Are we talking about streaming?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll pass along. So I was texting with a person that should not be named.
Yeah. You're doing a better job of this than I have. So I was being very roundabout about it, but if you want to go.
Yeah, so I was told by somebody within the Blazers team that, so I get that the streaming's been difficult. It's been frustrating. We talked about that on my radio show, and a lot of people like really pissed off texting in. So Root basically, since they aligned with the Kraken and the Mariners, and now they have the Blazers, the idea for Portland's side was that if they partner with Root, it forces Root's hand to create streaming avenues for people like me and other fans out there that do streaming, maybe more so than DirecTV or cable. So it was kind of a pressure play in a certain regard of NBC is not working for us. Root is the other Northwest alternative. So we'll work with Root, and Root will be forced because the Kraken's home opener and the Blazers' first game, or their home opener, it's the same night.
So they either have to split the channels or split the broadcast.
They can't split them. So what they're going to do, they can't split them yet.
Yes.
What they're going to do is people in the Washington, Seattle area are going to get the Kraken game, and people in Southwest, Washington and Portland and Oregon only going to get the Blazers. So you kind of get screwed if you wanted to watch hockey and basketball. But they did it because they want to put pressure on Root to basically join the streaming world. Right now, they're negotiating with Hulu.
Yes.
And it's going very well. YouTube TV basically feels like they're out of luck, at least at this juncture. But that being said, even with the switch and the dish drop, they're probably still reaching more homes with the Root move than they did with NBC.
They
Sports
are because of being on direct.
Because it was, prior to the drop, it was about 2 million and some change with Root, and with NBC it was about 1.3. So that's a pretty big difference. But you take Dish into effect, I'd assume a couple 100,000 are involved in that, but you're still getting to more eyeballs. So there's an update on the streaming situation.
And for those trying to understand the implications of this, the Blazers currently have Seattle as their market, as their designated territory by the league. That's why when we've talked about Seattle getting a franchise, why it means so much to the Blazers and to Jody Allen and Vulcan is because that new ownership group would have to pay a fee for those TV rights because it's currently Portland territory. So by the Blazers axing that territory out, which is ad revenue for Root, they're putting that pressure on them to go get streaming options to make it a viable market in Seattle and to allow Root to bring their Seattle market for hockey to Portland, because they can't do both at the same time right now with first resolving that and giving that secondary option.
I was also told there's about 100,000 people that streamed the Blazer games last year. So, I'm one of those that I had Hulu and then I went to YouTube TV. So it is a pretty decent amount of people.
That's a decent amount, but still less than I thought.
Less than I thought too, but I still
which is why they're more worried about the cable options than they are.
But you still don't want to. I mean, that's
you don't want to lose it. Hell,
1,000 people that can't watch your game. That's a problem.
Yeah, that's not great, Bob. Certainly, if you're cutting those people out.
I also had somebody else reach out to me that I knew when I was a kid. He was a friend's dad, and I haven't seen him in years. But he reached out on Twitter and told me that because he used to have season tickets, emailed McGowan personally, and he actually shot me back McGowan's response, which wasn't very long, but it basically said it's on Root to figure out distribution. That's their situation. That's not ours. So
that's part of the negotiating rights.
The answer doesn't please people. I understand that. I can understand the McGowan looks a certain way with that response, but it's also honest, right?
Yeah. And that's the one thing we talked about this
now.
with McGowan last week. Like, you can be mad about things that he has done, but he's been on the right side of this stuff, on the business side of it, since day one. Like, this is the guy that made hockey popular and successful in Los Angeles. Like, the guy knows what he's doing. So I would say be patient, and then they'll have a resolution to it. I don't think it's going to be their opening night. I think it'll be a couple weeks into the season before we get.
Oh, you mean like Hulu?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't expect it by opening night, but I'd expect it
by
15
Christmas.
games in. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of where I would say it. It'd
be great.
Thanksgiving, it's probably the earliest. Christmas, probably by the latest, if they have another solution in that regard. So there you go, guys. There's the the business side of it update as far as kind of what's going on, or at least what we have heard is going on within the organization. So let's spin this forward now back to the basketball side of things. You've got 3 games in a week after having a week off. And I'm actually kind of glad that this is going this way, in that the Blazers got their 1 game, and now, as Chauncey said, he gets to put an address on it. They get to go back. Nas can look at his film. Nurk can look at his film. Ant can look at his film. I don't think, I mean, Dame and CJ are going to, but Dame went out there, just kind of chilled for a quarter and a half, then set the world on fire, scored 16 in 19 minutes. CJ looked not great for the first probably 5-7 minutes of that game, and then he kind of found his groove. But again, those guys kind of are who they are. They're going to do what they do. The young guys, the guys whose roles are changing, they have a full week. They've got practice. They've got a ton of tape time. What are you looking for? Tangible things, because as we know, Sprague hates preseason and it doesn't matter. What are the tangible things you're looking for in game 2?
I mean, you got to be better defensively. At least you got to show that you're improving defensively. It doesn't mean that you're holding Sacramento to 80 freaking points or 90 points, but I understand that learning somebody else's new teachings on that side of the court is going to disrupt things to a certain regard, but there was too much scrambling. There was too much looking lost moments for me. I got to see more consistent, better communication and play there. I know communication, what I mean by that is not holding guys accountable. We saw that. It's more the, hey, rotate, help off the ball, like talk to each other on that side of the court. I need to see that. Like, of all the things we can bring up, and I know you'll bring up some good stuff, I know they're going to be good offensively. Like, that's not a doubt for me. So it's why did Neil fire? Why did Neil fire Terry? Why did he hire Chauncey? It's defense. So if your defense is not going to get better, you're largely going to be the same, if not a worse team than you were last year. I'd like to see some improvement in the second game. That doesn't have to be a huge leap, but I'd like to see and feel a little better than what I saw the first game.
So game 1, the Warriors really pushed pace, and they got threes up. 69, nice. 69 three-point attempts, even though it's a preseason game, 1 off an NBA record. And it felt like they got
I think Kerr's going to
break
that record in the preseason.
Like, it was nuts. It was I looked at it, I thought they had 80, to be honest, when it was all said and done. I was like, this is insane. I'll say this. I am not a bring back the 87, 76 score games. I don't want that. I do not want to watch 73s a night.
It's a lot of threes.
I understand the value of the 3. I do not want to watch teams run up and down the floor take threes. I don't.
You're abusing the 3 at that point, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I hope that's not what the league does. I genuinely hope it does not grow to that.
Well, have we seen any other numbers suggest the league's doing that versus Golden State? Kerr just let it fly.
No, we've seen the league as a whole creeping up.
We've seen it go up, but to take a leap like that,
I don't think it's going to get that high anytime soon. But I think it is going to, like, as we get more players who everybody in the NBA is a shooter. Everybody shoots now. Like, there's no longer these siloed non-shooter roles, and the Ben Simmons jokes notwithstanding here. There's so many more shooters in the NBA than there ever was. And so floor spacing is at a premium, and it just ends up being 3 after 3 after 3 after 3. I don't want to watch that. I genuinely, I want to see guys still attack the rim and finish at the hoop. I want to see post games. Like, I love guys who can genuinely work in the post effectively and efficiently. Just that raw skill itself is incredible. But as far as it pertains to the Blazers, they've got the Sacramento Kings, who they aren't going to take nearly as many threes, but they are going to play fast. And they're going to play fast as hell. Yep. They've got young guys in Fox and Halliburton that they fly, man. They get going, and they present some unique opportunities for the Blazers. So they're going to be more in transition, I would assume. They are going to play with a breakneck pace. They played with the fastest pace in the league last year offensively. One thing I did notice from the defense in game one is they were pretty poor about getting back in transition pretty regularly, and that was something that they struggle with in Terry Stotts. And I think that has less to do with Terry and more to do with the personnel.
I think it's just it's bad habits.
Yes.
It's really bad habits. You got to break yourself of those habits.
Guys who get disengaged and they're not fleet of foot, like Nurk all of a sudden getting down deep offensively and now having to run 90 feet on a quick change. Not good. Not having Cantor and Melo will be much more successful for that second unit. So I don't think they're going to get burned that bad. So those are the things more that I'm looking at going into game two. How much more connected are they in their 3-point defense as far as like running guys off the line? They were successful on 1 pass or 2 pass. Anything after 2 pass, things went pretty sideways, and they were in a scramble drill really the entire second half, which not really a big deal because most of the regulars were out. But even the starters didn't look great in that regard. So I think that's probably the big thing that I'm looking for.
No, I like that. I'm going to be looking for the same thing.
Like you said, offensively, this team should never struggle offensively.
I mean, yeah, every team's going to have a lapse, but yeah, they're largely never going to have a problem.
The overall, offense. And watching that game on Monday.
I'm going to get more Nurk.
That was the thing. So we talked about it a little bit. They clearly ran some sets for him. They did some things for him. But they also, Nurk had 5 turnovers as he was incredibly sloppy at times.
Yeah.
We talked about that going into the game, in the pregame.
I don't feel comfortable. I'm comfortable with him being at the top, doing the handoff stuff, like the quick dribble, handoff, screen, roll. When he starts dribbling, and he had it a couple times, I'm like, oh, God, pass the ball. It's like watching Aminu dribble again. I'm like, just get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it.
He's so big.
He's massive, and it's
a problem. When you're that big, you can't put the ball on the floor, particularly turn your back. He got ripped twice on post-up opportunities. When you're that big and you turn your back, when you dribble, that ball comes up to damn near 5 feet.
Yep.
Like, it's just simple biomechanics. When he's effective, it's when he's looking downhill, when he's looking at the rim. I think we saw him knock down, 1 of 2 from 3?
I think he's 1 of 2.
So if that becomes a real thing, not shooting 50%, but where let's say he's 35%, that does some things for this offense, like in what they can do and what they can do with him. However, he's still very poor as a playmaker on the move, and that's kind of been an issue for Portland in general. Dame, CJ, Nurk, the 3 primary playmakers are not good on the move playmakers, particularly in the paint. Larry Nance Jr., that's probably what he's best at, I would say, or I say his most valuable skill.
Yeah.
Demetrius says the ball movement sucked because nobody was moving. I thought there was more sets and plays and actions that had more back cutting built into it, and it was kind of chunky because guys still aren't used to it. Obviously, the play that sticks out to me is the Ant one-handed bullet pass down the middle to a back cut for CJ after the overplay on the pin down or the flare screen on the opposite side. Nance redirected some stuff really good on back cuts, or when the defense overcommitted when he was playing on the short roll. His box score numbers were non-existent, but I thought the stuff that he did on both sides of the floor was really good. And that kind of leads me to the next point. Larry Nance Jr. we've barely talked about just because I think he fit in almost too well, that he was in too much in the background and not featured enough outside of his screen and roll.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we disagreed, but I'd like to see a little more from Larry, because I do think Larry was a good pickup for them, and I do think that they can feature him a little more on that side of the ball. And I think he brings good things for them, like things that they didn't necessarily have last year. I want to see more of it. I really do. I want them to force the issue to a certain extent to make him feel even more comfortable.
I'm trying to figure out what they need to do, where they need to do it, to get not just Nance involved with that second unit, but excuse me, Nurk did hit 2 threes. I thought he hit 2 threes.
2, okay.
Yeah, he was 2 for 4. I was like, I could have swore I saw him take some more. But I want to see Nance, I think, a little bit more with like a staggered bench unit. Half starting group, half bench reserve kind of deal. Like, let's see what it looks like when there's no BS, more playmaking on the floor. I would very much like to see the Dame, Norm, Nance, Covington, Nurk lineup, or stick whoever the hell you want at the 3 with Covington and Nance at the 4-5, and you just kind of have them, playing off of each other, which is something we actually might see against Sacramento because they don't have a traditional center. They've got Rashawn Holmes, who's, featured, but Bagley is more of a, in between kind of guy, even though he's not a real floor stretcher. So,
is he playing?
He was.
Is he gonna get hurt again?
He wasn't. Well, not just is he gonna get hurt. He's gonna keep his parents off Twitter.
Dude, do you feel like nobody talks about how bad that pick was?
No, Sacramento talks about how bad that pick was because they screwed up horribly.
It was awful. It was just I didn't like the pick when it was made. I'm like, I wouldn't take that dude number 2. No, thank you.
Never trust Duke players. It's kind of always been my mantra. There are exceptions. It was looking bad for me on Kyrie, but I think we've come full circle on Kyrie.
Or flat circle.
There you go. We've come flat circle on Kyrie.
2 best players, Shane Battier, Elton Brand, would you say? Outside of Kyrie when he's good.
Yeah, I mean Zion obviously is going to shatter that, but is he really a dude?
Is he playing?
Yeah.
I mean, at some point you got to play, man.
It's so bad, but this Kings team is going to be a different challenge, a unique challenge, and I think they'll play a little bit smaller, and you'll figure out the Blazers going a little bit smaller. And that's what the reality is. Zeller might not play, so you might actually get an opportunity to see some of the small ball lineups that we've talked about all summer.
You mentioned Tyrese Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox. I'm a huge De'Aaron Fox fan. I love De'Aaron Fox. I love the backcourt. Yeah, Halliburton was really good before he got hurt. How much are you interested to see, not that they're giving, I guess, 1,000% of their energy on defense. How curious are you to watch Dame and CJ defensively against young, quick guys? Because this is supposed to be your accountability, 100% buy-in. We're changing this thing around.
Year of accountability. I love that.
Well, it's kind of what it is what it's become. Right? Again, not that they need to shut them down or they're going to, because I don't think they can. But I'm kind of curious to keep my eye on what they do defensively, because if those 2 dudes don't change, I don't know how many people realize this defense isn't going to climb to the level they think it is.
It might be better because they don't have really Cantor and Melo eating up a ton of minutes.
It might get to 20th or 19th. Yeah. I don't know if you're getting in your top 15 area if those 2 guys aren't going to play hard defensively.
But those 2 guys at the front, at Dame and CJ, the point of attack, that's always been kind of this, yeah. And I think
it matters.
That's why I think it's going to be a good way to take a look at this as far as how it matches up versus the Warriors. Obviously, Jordan Poole and Steph were a different backcourt, pulling up from half court regularly and jacking up threes. Fox wants to get downhills. I believe he was 3rd in total drives last year. I'm trying to go off memory. I did a bunch of research on interior drives and passing all summer, and I remember seeing his name pop up all the time. So he bends defense. He's arguably the quickest player in the NBA with the ball. He's just explosive as can be. So if you're talking about having a more aggressive defense, bringing your big up to the level on pick and roll coverage, he is the guy who is going to turn that corner and expose it more than anybody. So I think it's going to be a good barometer for how well and effective they are anticipating or thinking about the situation as far as it pertains to defensive growth.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just one of those things where, and I think Nance can be a huge part in that, because if Nance is if you end up going with a small ball 5, I think that's where you can see some different coverages. Yes, you're losing the rim protecting, but I think Nance can ride that screen out further.
He's quicker though. I think he's a little better with his feet.
He cuts angles off better. Yeah, and I think that's where you're going to see the actual growth defensively, like where the scheme change can be more impactful. Because everybody's like, well, Terry was just burying Nurk in drop coverage. Yeah, he's 7 foot 300 pounds. And as much as Nurk says he wants to do this, you can say it in one hand and crap in the other. Tell me which one fills up first. Because that's just the reality. Like, as much as I love Nurk, and I do, he gets gassed in under 30 minutes, and now you want him to play a more aggressive coverage.
Yeah.
I understand why Terry did what he did. It just kind of a situation that's just didn't have a good answer.
Right.
Larry Nance Jr. for the first time is a good answer. And I think if you're going to be more aggressive in those situations. So when you take a look at that, that's probably the thing that I'm looking forward to the most now that I think about it. I hadn't really kind of dove into it. I'm like, let's see if the Blazers go with some small ball stuff. Let's see if they change some things and are even more aggressive in those things, and not even that, more connected in that regard. Yeah. When you're looking forward to the rest of the preseason, what are your goals now for Chauncey as far as like the overall idea of it all, and how you want them to go into game 1 of the regular season? Like, if you're making a mental checklist in your head of like, okay, between now and the end of the preseason, next 3 games, I want to see this, this, and this, or growth towards this. And what do those actual mile markers look like?
Well, defensively, I mean, just overall, that's got to be number 1 for me going mile marker wise going into game 1. I think rotations, having a better feel for what your rotations will be, maybe that will get disrupted now that Cody's nose is broken. But to what you just said, I mean, you've got to F around with some small ball lineups, and I think he will, right? Like, it wouldn't make sense not to. So getting an idea that if Cody and or Nurk miss the average amount of games that they do or that they have, you don't feel quite as lost without one of those guys. I know you'll feel an impact more with Nurk than you would Cody, obviously. But knowing that Larry and Cody are there, or Larry and Nurk are there, you don't feel like this ginormous drop-off. Because I think in a lot of ways, man, I think what you're talking about in pick and roll coverage and just on the other end, I think there's a real chance that Larry becomes their best big defender. And I think
in pick and roll coverage, he will be.
In pick and roll coverage for certain. But like, I just think overall, he's quicker than people think. He's kind of underrated not underrated anymore, I guess, because what he showed us in Cleveland. He's underrated still, in my opinion, athletically compared to what he is to these other bigs. So I think there's going to be a lot of instances and nights where we walk off going, Larry's their best defensive big overall, not just on the pick and roll, but overall. So I think if you can nail down your rotations, I think if you can make me feel better defensively, you would ease a lot of my worries, because the rest of the stuff I think is taking care of itself. I don't have a question on offense, right? Nasir's
which is hilarious because that seems to be, it's a ISO heavy offense. You get these pushbacks and these arguments that are a little bit faulty, but
yeah,
I still think that when it's all said and done offensively, that still things look relatively the same.
And Ant's development's huge because you didn't feel good with your bench unit last year. You have to feel better with it this year, or you're going to find yourself a lot in the same situation.
Yeah. And as far as it pertains to Larry Nance Jr., I want to push back on this only because I think it undersells Nurk a little bit. And I don't know if I necessarily disagree, but I definitely want to argue about it.
Well, tell me this: who fouls out more?
And who fouls out more? Who creates more situations that are negatives for their team?
I feel like Nurk when he's tired. Sorry to interrupt you, but Nurk when he's tired is hacking.
Oh, 100%. He's reaching. He's falling. Yes. But I guess this is more.
It's a worn out boxer. It's like, let me get to the body and I'm going to wrap you to give myself a breath.
I think this is more of a ceiling or floor question. I think Nurk gives you a higher ceiling. Larry gives you a higher floor. Because I think Nurk's rim protection is real. Like, he's just so big. He's so damn big. I have, for anybody who's never actually been next to Jusuf Nurkic, it's hard to quantify just how big he really is. The best thing that I can qualify this with is Go put your face up against the glass of a phone booth and try to shoot. That's the closest thing. Like, I mean, good luck finding a phone booth in
I was
today's
gonna
age.
say, boy, you really dated yourself.
Yeah,
with that
I
reference.
know.
A phone booth? You went a phone booth?
I mean, what's out there now?
Go stand next to.
Go put your face along a Prius that stood up on its end. Like what?
Go put yourself next to an electrical charging station and then shoot.
That's probably pretty close. Yeah, that's probably pretty close. Yeah, that's like I guess I should have gone that way with the Prius. But yeah, like it's like the whole idea of releasing a shot at at 5'11" for me, I release it at probably 6'5", 6'6", maybe a little bit higher, and I've got the ball effectively at his chest.
Right.
Like, just think about that for a second. Just like your average point guard in the NBA, what they have to do to clear him, and that's if he's not jumping with his arms down. All of a sudden, he's contesting. He doesn't get a ton of blocks. He's okay at blocking shots, but he deters a ton. And Nance, while he does have a solid reach and wingspan, is nowhere near Nurk's size. And so,
for sure.
So I give him that nod because we've seen, and when it comes to playing against guys who can actually do work in the post, Nurk, I mean, I know Jokic gave him that work, but Jokic gives everybody that work. Nurk can shut guys down with his size. No?
We shall see.
Yeah. But again, like I said, I don't know if I necessarily disagree, but I just wanted to argue over this.
No, I think it's a fair thing to wonder because I've had several games in the Nurk era where I've been like, hell yeah, there we go. Mm-hmm. And then I have other games, a lot of games.
Hell
where I'm
no,
like,
no more.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Whether it's dunk the basketball, stop doing this finesse crap, or stop reaching, getting lazy, or how did that happen? How did you give that up?
The barometer of the up and down versus the straight line of consistency. I think that's
such a wave.
That is the hallmark of use of Nurkic.
What are you looking for? Like, this is the tough thing for me. Like, outside of defense, I just don't have a lot. Like, come game one, I think they need to figure this out
baby.
defensively.
Vibes.
I believe in vibes, actually. I'm a big vibes guy.
Like, how much of the Dame is, like, totally in stuff is real? Like, I genuinely believe Dame is. Do his teammates believe it?
Oh, I think they do. He's given us no reason ever in his career to think that he's not engaged.
A two-faced guy or engaged or anything like that.
No.
But does that cloud, does it hang? Like,
it hangs if they start to fall.
But people are human.
Right.
If all of a sudden, they stumble out of the gate, do they, feel a little weird? That's why I wonder, like, if they have a crappy preseason like they did last year, because they were bad. Mm-hmm. It was like, ooh, God. And everybody just kept, oh, it's preseason. Then they went out and got absolutely waxed by the Jazz. Like, that wasn't even a basketball game. They got humiliated.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, this is going to be a bad year. So I think they need to build towards something and not just like, oh, it's a nice, fun thing. Like, the defense is better. It's tangibly. Like, you have to have something when you go into game one where it may not be mid-season defense, but it can't be preseason defense. Like, it's got to be viable. And game one was not viable from the starting unit. The bench unit, whatever. Starting unit did not look good. But I'm not holding that against them because it's one game with a lot of changes, a lot of new verbiage, a lot of new everything. Mm-hmm. Game two, I better see a little bit better. Game three, it better start looking. If that's their dress rehearsal, that's what I'm looking for. And then game four is kind of whatever when they run the training camp guys out there. But come game one, they can't get out there and get embarrassed. Because with all of the other pressures, with it being, Chauncey's first year, Nurk's contract year, Dame's trade year, the feeling of this team right away has to at least be good. Because if it's not, it has the potential to go sideways very, very quickly.
I mean, Danny, you tell me this. I'm looking right now
at the schedule.
You're really talking their first eight games?
8 of their first 14 are not easy.
I mean, you open with Sacramento, and you should win that game. But hell, Fox And Halliburton could be sneaky this year.
Those Kings Blazers games for the last 10 years, no matter
Always.
who has played, they are played tightly. It's such a weird thing. But yeah, I never look at that and go, "Oh, that's a win," because it's always like,
Right.
It's Sacramento. They always play that game stupidly.
You're always in a dogfight with them. And then you got Phoenix, LA without Kawhi, but still they went to the West Finals.
They're
They
still
put on
a good
show.
team.
Memphis, LA, Charlotte's going to be a hell of a team to try to defend this year. And then Philly. I don't know what Philly's going to be without Simmons, but I assume
their
still gonna be
vibes
good.
are sideways too.
Sure, but I mean those are your first 7 games. I mean you
don't have that's a win game there.
You could be 5-2, you could be 2-5. I don't know, man. I think coming out the gate, it's going to be so important to establish what you are and to figure that out.
Because we know who they are identity in the past. And it was been made abundantly clear that identity is not acceptable. So if you're going to change things, how long can you stick to those guns?
Yeah.
And will they stick to those guns for all of the talk that we have heard? And this isn't like throw Chauncey and Neil under the players under the bus. I say this about every team in the NBA. Because I argued with a couple of buddies of mine that are Lakers media guys today. They're like, "Oh, Carmelo Anthony's not a bad rebounder," and I'm like, "He was a god awful train wreck of a rebounder. He had the same rebounding rate as Buddy Hield and T.J. McConnell last year."
They think he's a good rebounder because when he grabs it, he tells you to get the F out of here.
Yes, and he was like a solid rebounder on volume throughout his career. He can't jump over a roll of toilet paper. So you get even media folks, fans, everybody who get like locked into what guys are or have been in the past.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's why I try to stay away from that stuff with this. It's like, this is what this team has shown in the past. And we're not talking about like guys who are degrading in the, waning years of their career. Carmelo Anthony going into his year 38 season. Like 37, 38 season. I can't look at that and be like, oh yeah, that's the same as prime Damian Lillard, prime CJ McCollum, and a rookie head coach having to manage all of the things that are currently on the plate.
Right.
That for me is, so that's why when we're talking about those mile markers, the defense has to be passable, and guys have to be on the same page, and that buy-in. And I'm not just talking about the defense, but like team buy-in. Like these dudes have to be on the same page. And I don't know if the preseason is going to be enough to get there.
It might not be, and this is kind of like the final point that I have on the whole thing. You talked about Dame and how much the teammates in the back of their minds are thinking about what's his future, right? Because it seemed a little cloudy at one point in the summer, and then he got reinvested. I'm still not personally at a point where I'm like, yeah, his Instagram posts made me think he wants to be here for the next 10 years. If they're not great, I'm going to be fully ready for the Damian Lillard has asked for a trade type situation. That being said, not to get ahead of ourselves here, I think what you worry about is the circumstances around him.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is, even if he's locked in and playing Damian Lillard basketball, which I fully expect, how many of those guys in that locker room are going to look around, know what they really are? Because what they want, but they know how they stack up truly. And how much do you need to worry about the personality types and what they all kind of individually start thinking and doing? Not to say
it's contract years, baby.
It's contract years. It's, oh my God, we're going to lose Dame because we're the 7th seed in the West and there's zero chance we're winning. Like,
even
there's points to all that. Nurkic, is he going to be unhappy 10 games in? Is Norm going to be unhappy or unsatisfied?
Is Ant going to be happy in his contract year? Like, there's a lot.
Is CJ going to, like, CJ
he's
knows
never going to be unhappy.
He's
He's the number 2 here. He never gets any criticism. He's getting paid and he's got a vineyard. He's
the
one guy.
No doubt. He's Neil's boy. But, like, what if his role or his shots
gets
go
diminished?
down?
Yeah.
You know, I don't call him out often. I really have enjoyed him as a Blazer. That Pelican series, I thought he quit. When they got swept, I watched him play, and I'm like, that dude's ready for Cancun. He didn't care about game 4.
Yeah.
And I know statistically it looked okay. I watched that game from start to finish. He didn't put up shots till it was over. I think that's okay to say out loud of, I'm worried about that a little bit, that if this team starts a little rocky, you know, where are some of these guys' heads going to go? Is it going to go oh, woe is me, I got to worry about me and get mine? Or is it going to be fully locked in, every single person for every game for 82? I think we'll get a good read of that the first 20 games, but that is something in the back of my mind I'm worried about.
I am simultaneously giving them 20 games and also at 20 games, like trying to figure out exactly what this team is. Does that make sense? It's
no, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Like, yeah, you need to give this team time to gel. And I'm not going to crush them night in, night out if things don't go well. And I'm not going to go, oh, my God, they're a title-winning team if they come out of the gates gangbusters.
Oh, and if they beat the Kings, there's going to be those people. Here we go. See that? With Chauncey's better than Terry. I can already see it. And it's like, if you can see that in game 1 against the Kings, I don't want to know what your reaction is if they're barely over 500, 35 games in. What did your opinion swing the other way, or did it stay the same and it's somebody else's fault?
It's a definitely go with God situation. Speaking of going with God, we are going to go with God here. Wrap things up. There's a lot of arguments in the comments, guys. Normally, I want to engage with you. No, just on random stuff about Ben Simmons, and I'm just. Oh. We got other stuff to go with right now.
Ben Simmons is not important in Portland anymore. That's a topic that doesn't matter.
No, I'm nearly certain that's about dead, unless things change drastically.
Both. I'll tell you right now. I've talked to a couple people. It's gone. It's dead.
Yeah.
It's dead. Yeah.
So, what do you got coming up for the rest of the week, buddy?
We just same old stuff, man. We got football to talk about on the radio show, and locked and loaded. Got the gambling show coming up on Sunday evening. And obviously, we'll be back with this thing. We got the Monday stuff. We got mailbag stuff. So we got a lot to look
Sunday
forward to.
Or Saturday. We might move the recording date on that around, just so everybody knows, just because the weekends are tough for the football star Sprague.
It's not I wish I was a football star. That would be a really cool life.
No,
but
football
I'm
starved.
Not. Oh, starved. Yeah. Well, can never have too much football. We got a good Thursday night game tomorrow. And then also rate, review, subscribe. Please share this podcast with as many people as you can. We really enjoy doing this with you guys. We're taking a lot of time out of our personal lives to do this. And we're going to be really busy this season, man. We really are. So thank you for all the support. Continue to share. Continue to argue in the comments or argue with us. It doesn't matter. We're ready to go.
I typically like it more when they argue with us, but they're arguing with each other today, and we just kind of rolling through.
Let's keep it at a basketball argument and nothing more. Let's not get personal with this thing, man. It's not that serious.
That's kind of where I just kind of let it go today. So everybody do us a favor and be civil with each other at least a little bit. As always, you can find Sprague on Twitter at Brandon Sprague, not Brandon Bragg.
Or I thought you were going to go Brandon, like I'm Andrew Andrews. Good poll by Lamar, by the way, on that broadcast. An Andrew Andrews poll, Benson alum.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Did you think Kevin Calabro sounded different?
Yes. I've had this discussion with a few people.
Okay, so my theory is
preseason for him too.
Okay, two things. It's either preseason Kevin Calabro or it's I'm retiring in 2 years. This is going to be an easy paycheck for me, Kevin Calabro.
Both?
And I don't know. Yeah. I want to see that through the preseason and be ready for game 1. That's what I want to see.
Listen, if there's anything I say about Casey, he will unabashedly have some fun at everybody's expense, which I love.
It was nice to have him back.
It is. Mike says, Danny, ride the Peloton tonight in your honor. Hey, I'm back on it. So if you're a Peloton person, you can follow me on Peloton at Danny Marang, same as everywhere else. Same as across my social media. Look at that plug right there. Horrible transition, just stumbling over myself. At Danny Marang across all social media except for Instagram, which is at D Marang. I'm trying to be more active there. I'm just not an IG dude. I'm ugly.
Yeah, I'm not a big IG guy. I kind of don't like Facebook in general. And
listen, the only reason I use it is because I have a business page for this stuff, and I promo everything through there. And then I post my pictures of my beautiful wife and I. That is about it. But yeah, thank you everybody who makes this all possible. We will have the pre and post game show all season long, so we will have you Monday, I believe at 5. I need to double check the start time on that. I haven't got
It's 7 o'clock game.
Okay, so we'll have you guys at 5 as per usual. We'll go for about 25 to 30, and we'll get out of there, give you guys some time before the game. Then we'll have you right after the horn movie, the Mailbag Pod. As always, if you have mailbag questions, at Danny Marang on Twitter, Jacked Ramsays at gmail.com if you don't have Twitter. Or you can send them to Brandon, and I can hopefully remind Brandon to send them to me. So that'll be the chain of command. I don't know how well that'll work. We're going to try it out. Let's see what happens. As always, thank you. Thank you. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel at Danny Marang, or excuse me, YouTube.com. God, I'm confusing everything. YouTube.com/Danny Marang. There we go. And,
I think you're dehydrated. You keep throwing out a lot of Danny Marangs here. Everything's just a Danny Marang is what I would say.
I set it up that way solely because if anything changes, if any of your name changes or whatever else, I always have the consistency in the channel.
Yeah.
That's just kind of what it goes. But yeah, I have pounded one of these already. I'm already halfway down. I don't know what is going on. Probably all of the Peloton sweating. That's the only thing I can go with. But
welcome back.
Yes, baby steps. Yeah, screw it. We'll get out of here on that. Thanks, everybody.